Thief of Time, Part 6. Tick. And in that timeless moment, the ghost of Mr. Chopin, to whom the scene was hazy and fuzzy, is as a thought seen through gauze, said, "This is just impossible. Did you see that?" "See what?" said a dark figure behind him. Chopin turned. "Oh," he said, and added with a sudden certainty, "You are Death, right?"
"Yes. I am sorry that I am late."
The spirit formerly known as Chopin looked down at the pile of dust that represented his worldly habitation for the previous 600 years. "So am I," he said. He nudged Death in the ribs.
"Excuse me?"
I said, "I'm sorry I'm late. Bada bing, bada boom."
"I beg your pardon."
Sorry I'm late. Like, dead?"
Death nodded. "Oh, I see. It was the bada bing, bada boom I did not understand."
That was to show that it was a joke," said Chopin.
"Ah, yes, I can see now how that would be necessary. In fact, Mr. Chopin, while you are late, you are also early, bada bing, bada boom."
"Pardon?"
"You have died before your time."
"Well, yes, I should think so."
"Do you have any idea why? It is highly unusual."
"All I know is that the spinners went wild and I must have cut the load when one of them went over speed," said Chopin. "But hey, what about that kid, eh? Look at the way he's making the buggers dance. I wish I had him training under me. What am I saying? He'd give me a few tips." Death looked around.
"To whom do you refer?"
"That boy up on the podium. See him?"
"No, I'm afraid I see no one there."
"What? Look, he's right there. Plain as the nose on your face. Well, obviously not your face."
"I see the colored pegs moving."
"Well, who do you think is moving them? I mean, you are Death, right? I thought you could see everyone." Death stared at the dancing bobbins.
"Everyone that I should see," he said.
He continued to stare.
"Ahem," said Chopin. "Oh, yes. Where were we?
Look, if I'm too early, can't you—"
"Everything that happens stays happened."
"What kind of philosophy is that?"
"The only one that works."
Death took out an hourglass and consulted it.
"I see that because of this problem you are not due to reincarnate for 79 years. Do you have anywhere to stay?"
"Stay? I'm dead. It's not like locking yourself out of your own house," said Chopin, who was beginning to fade.
"Perhaps you could be bumped up to an earlier birth?"
Chopin vanished. In the timeless moment, Death turned back to stare at the hall of spinners. The chalk cylinder started to spin up again, squeaking gently. One by one, the oak procrastinators began to revolve, picking up the rising load. This time, there was no scream of bearings. They twirled slowly like old ballerinas, this way and that, gradually taking up the strain as millions of humans in the world outside bent time around themselves. The creaking sounded like a tea-clipper rounding Cape Wrath on a gentle breeze. Then the big stone cylinders groaned as they picked up the time their smaller brethren couldn't handle. A tumbling underlaid the creaking now, but it was still gentle, controlled. Lutze lowered his hand gently and straightened up. "Nice clean pickup," he said. "Well done, everyone." He turned to the astonished, panting monks and beckoned the most senior toward him. Lutze pulled a ragged cigarette end out of its lodging behind his ear and said, "Well done now, Rambert Handysides. What do you think happened just now, eh?" "Well, there was a surge which blew out." No, after that," said Lutze, striking a match on the sole of his sandal. "See, what I don't think happened was that you boys ran around like a lot of headless chickens, and the novice got up on the platform and did the sweetest, smoothest bit of rebalancing that I've ever seen. That couldn't have happened, because that sort of thing does not happen. Am I right?" The monks of the procrastinator floor were not among the temple's great political thinkers. Their job was to tend and grease and strip down and rebuild and follow directions of the man on the platform. Rambert Handyside's brow wrinkled. Lutze sighed. "See, what I think happened," he said helpfully, "was that you lads rose to the occasion, right, and left myself and the young man there aghast at the practical skills you all showed. The abbot will be impressed and blow happy bubbles. You could be looking at some extra momos in your thugpa come dinner time, if you get my drift. Handysides ran this up his mental flagpole, and it indeed sent prayers to heaven. He began to smile. However, said Lutze, stepping closer and lowering his voice, I'll probably be around again. This place looks as though it could do with a good sweeping, and if I don't find you boys in pin sharp and prodding buttock inside a week, you and me, we will have a talk. The smile vanished. Yes, Sweeper. You've got to test them all and see to those bearings. Yes, Sweeper. And someone clean up Mr. Choplang. Yes, Sweeper. Fair play to you, then. Me and young Lopsang here will be going. You've done a lot for his education. He took the unresisting Lopsang by the hand and led him out of the hall, past the long lines of turning, humming procrastinators. A pall of blue smoke still hung under the high ceiling. Truly, it is written. You could knock me down with a feather, he muttered, as they headed up the sloping passage. You spotted that inversion before it happened. I'd have blown us into next week, at least. Sorry, Sweeper. Sorry? You don't have to be sorry. I don't know what you are, son. You're too quick. You're taking to this place like a duck to water. You don't have to learn stuff that takes other people years to get the hang of. Old Choplang, may he be reincarnated somewhere nice and warm, even he couldn't balance the load down to a second, over the whole damn world. He shuddered. Here's a tip. Don't let it show. People can be funny about that type of thing. Yes, Sweeper. And another thing, said Lutze, leading the way out into the light. What was all that fuss just before the procrastinators cut loose? You felt something. I don't know, I just felt everything went wrong for a moment. Has that ever happened before? No, it was a bit like what happened in the Mandala Hall. Well, don't talk about it to anyone else. Most of the high-ups these days probably don't even know how the spinners work. No one cares about them anymore. No one notices something that works a little too well. Of course, in the old days, you weren't even allowed to become a monk until you'd spent 6 months in the hall greasing and cleaning and fetching, and we were the better for it. These days, it's all about learning obedience and cosmic harmony. Well, you've learned that in the halls in the old days. You learned that if you didn't jump out of the way when someone yelled she's dumping, you got a couple of years where it hurt, and that there's no harmony better than all the spinners turning sweetly. The passage rose into the main temple complex. People were still scurrying around as they headed for the Mandala Hall. You sure you can look at it again, said Lutze. Yes, Sweeper. Okay, you know best. The balconies overlooking the hall were crowded with monks, but Lutze worked his way forward by polite yet firm use of his broom. The senior monks were clustered at the edge. Rinpo caught sight of him. Ah, Sweeper, he said, some dust delayed you. Spinners cut free and went oversped, muttered Lutze. Yes, but you were summoned by the abbot, said the acolyte reproachfully. Upon a time, said Lutze. Every man jack of us would have legged it down to the hall when the gongs went. Yes, but... Brrr, said the abbot. And Lopsang saw now that he was being carried in a sling on the acolyte's back, with an embroidered pixie hood on his head to keep the chill off of him. Lutze always was very keen on a practical approach. Brrr. He blew milky salts into the acolyte's ear. I'm glad matters have been resolved, Lutze. The Sweeper bowed, while the abbot started to beat the acolyte gently over the head with a wooden bear. History has repeated, Lutze dum-dum brrr. Glass clock, said Lutze. The senior monks gasped. How could you possibly know that, said the chief acolyte. We haven't even rerun the mandala yet. It is written, I've got a feeling in my water, said Lutze, and that was the only other time I heard of when all the spinners went wild like that. They all cut loose. Time slip. Someone's building a glass clock again. That's quite impossible, said the acolyte. We removed every trace. Ha! It is written, I'm not as green as I'm capped looking, snapped Lutze. Something like that you can't kill. It leaks back. Stories, dreams, paintings on cave walls. Whatever. Lopsang looked down at the mandala floor. Monks were clustered around a group of tall cylinders at the far end of the hall. They looked like procrastinators, but only one small one was spinning, and quite slowly. The others were motionless, showing the mass of symbols that were carved into them from top to bottom. Pattern storage. The thought arrived in his head. That is where the mandala's patterns are kept, so that they can be replayed. Today's pattern on the little one, long-term storage on the big ones. Below him, the mandala rippled blotches of color and scraps of pattern drifting across its surface. One of the distant monks called out something, and the small cylinder stopped. The rolling sand grains were stilled. "This is how it looked 20 minutes ago," said Rinpo. "See the blue-white dot there? And then it spreads." "I know what I'm looking at," said Lutze grimly. "I was there when it happened, remember? Your Reverence, get them to run the old glass clock sequence. We haven't got a lot of time." "I really think the acolyte began, but was interrupted by a blow from a rubber brick. "Wanna party, wanna? If Lutze is right, we must not waste time, gentlemen. And if he is wrong, then we have time to spare. Is this not so? Party now, wanna? "Thank you," said the sweeper. He cupped his hands. "Oi, you lot, spindle 2, 4th ping, round the 19th goopa, and jump to it." "I really must protest, Your Reverence," said the acolyte. "We have practiced for just such an emergency as—" "Yeah, I know all about practicing procedures for emergencies," said Lutze, "and there's always something missing." "Ridiculous! We take great pains to— You always leave out the damn emergency." Lutze turned back to the hall and at the apprehensive workers. "Ready? Good. Put it on the floor now. Or I shall have to come down there. And I don't want to have to come down there." There was some frantic activity by men around the cylinders, and a new pattern replaced the one below the balcony. The lines and colors were in different places, but a blue-white circle occupied the center. "There," said Lutze. "That was less than 10 days before the clock struck." There was a silence from the monks. Lutze smiled grimly. "And 10 days later—" "Time stopped," said Lopsang. "That is one way of putting it," said Lutze. He'd gone red in the face. One of the monks put a hand on his shoulder. "It's all right, Sweeper," he said soothingly. "We know you couldn't have gotten there in time." "Being in time is supposed to be what we do," said Lutze. "I was nearly at the damn door, Charlie. Too many castles, not enough time." Behind him, the mandala returned to its slow metering of the present. "It wasn't your fault," said the monk. Lutze shook the hand free and turned to face the abbot over the shoulder of the chief acolyte. "I want permission to track this one down right now, Reverend Sir," he said. He tapped his nose. "I've got the smell of it. I've been waiting for this all these years. You won't find me wanting this time." In the silence, the abbot blew a bubble. "It'll be Überwald again," said Lutze, a hint of pleading in his voice. "That's where they mess around with the electric. I know every inch of that place. Give me a couple of minutes and we can nip this thing right in the butt." "Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. This thing needs discussion, Lutze. But we thank you for your offer, ba-ba-ba-ba-ba," said the abbot. "Rinpo, I want all senior field monks in the room of silence within 5 minutes. Are the spinners working harmoniously?" One of the monks looked up from a scroll he'd been handed. "It appears so, Your Reverence." "My congratulations to the board master. Bigot!" "But Choplang is dead," murmured Lutze. The abbot stopped blowing bubbles. "That is sad news, and he was a friend of yours, I understand." "Shouldn't have happened like that," the sweeper muttered. "Shouldn't have happened like that." "Compose yourself, Lutze. I will talk to you shortly. Bigot!" The chief acolyte, spurred on by a blow across the ear with a rubber monkey, hurried away. The press of monks began to thin out as they went about their duties. Lutze and Lopsang were left on the balcony, looking down at the rippling mandala. Lutze cleared his throat. "See them spinners at the end," he said. "The little one records the patterns for a day, and then anything interesting is stored in the big ones." "I just pre-remembered that you were going to say that." Good word. The lad has talent." Lutze lowered his voice. "Anyone watching us?" Lopsang looked around. There's a few people here." Lutze raised his voice again. "You been taught anything about the big crash?" "Only rumors, Sweeper." "Yeah, there were a lot of rumors. The day time stood still, all that sort of thing." Lutze sighed. "You know, most of what you get taught is lies. It has to be. Sometimes if you get the truth all at once, you just don't understand it. You knew Ankh-Morpork pretty well, don't you? Did you ever go to the opera house?" "Only for pickpocket practice, Sweeper." Ever wonder about it? Ever look at that little theatre just over the road, called the Disc, I think? Oh yes, we got penny tickets and sat on the ground and threw nuts at the stage. And it didn't make you think. Big opera house, all plush, all gilt, and big orchestras, and then there's this little thatched theatre, all bare wood and no seats, and one bloke playing a cromhorn for musical accompaniment? Lobsang shrugged. Well, no, that's just how things are. Lutze almost smiled. Very flexible things, human minds, he said. It's amazing what they can stretch to fit. We did a fine job there. Lutze? One of the lesser acolytes was awaiting respectfully. The abbot will see you now, he said. Ah, right, said the sweeper. He nudged Lobsang and whispered, We're going to Ankh-Morpork, lad. What? But you said you wanted to be sent to... Lutze winkled, because it's written, them as asks don't get... See? There's more than one way of choking a dang-dang than stuffing it with pling, lad. Is there? Oh yes, if you got enough pling. Now let's see about the abbot, shall we? It'll be time for his feed now. Solids, thank goodness. At least he's done with the wet nurse. It was so embarrassing for him and the young lady. Honestly, you didn't know where to put your face, and frankly, neither did he. I mean, mentally he is 900 years old. That must make very wise. Pretty wise, but age and wisdom don't necessarily go well together, I found, said Lutze as they approached the abbot's rooms. Some people just become stupid with more authority. Not his reverence, of course. The abbot was in his high chair and had recently flicked a spoonful of nourishing pap all over the chief acolyte, who was smiling like a man whose job depended on looking happy that parsnip and gooseberry custard was dribbling down his forehead. It occurred to Lobsang, not for the first time, that the abbot was a little bit more than purely random in his attacks on the man. The acolyte was indeed the kind of mildly objectionable person who had engendered an irresistible urge by any right-thinking person to pour goo into his hair and hit him with a rubber yak, and the abbot was old enough to listen to his inner child. You sent for me, your reverence, said Lutze, bowing. The abbot upturned his bowl down the chief acolyte's robe. Wah-ha-ha! Yes, Lutze. How old are you now? 800, your reverence, but that's no age at all. Nevertheless, you have spent a lot of time in the world. I understood you were looking to retire and cultivate your gardens. Yes, but, the abbot smiled angelically. Like an old war horse, you say ha-ha at the sound of trumpets, yes? I don't think so, said Lutze. There's nothing funny about trumpets, really. I meant that you have longed to be out in the field again, but you have been helping to train world operatives for many years, haven't you? These gentlemen. On one side of the room, a number of burly and muscular monks were sitting. They were kitted out for travel, with rolled sleeping mats on their backs, and they were dressed in loose black clothing. They nodded sheepishly as Lutze, and their eyes above their half-mask looked embarrassed. I did my best, said Lutze. Of course, others trained them too. I just tried to undo the damage. I never taught them to be ninjas. He nudged Lobsang. That, apprentice, is a Gaetian for the passing wind, he said in a stage whisper. I am proposing to send them out immediately. Wah! The abbot hit his high chair with his spoon. That is my order, Lutze. You are a legend, but you have been a legend for a long time. Why not trust in the future? Bigot! I see, said Lutze sadly. Well, it had to happen sometime. Thank you for your consideration, your reverence. Lutze, I've known you a long time. You will not go within 100 miles of Uberwald, will you? Not at all, your reverence. That is an order. I understand, of course. You've disobeyed my orders before, though, in Omnia, I remember. A tactical decision made by the man on the spot, your reverence. It was more what you might call an interpretation of your order, said Lutze. You mean going where you had distinctly been told not to go and doing what you were absolutely forbidden to do? Yes, your reverence. Sometimes you have to move the seesaw by pushing the other end. When I did what shouldn't be done in a place where I shouldn't have been, I achieved what needed to be done in a place where it should have happened. The abbot gave Lutze a long, hard stare, the kind that babies are actually quite good at giving. Lutze, you are not to go to Uberwald or anywhere near Uberwald, understand? He said. I do, your reverence. You are right, of course. But in my dotage, may I travel another path of wisdom rather than violence? I wish to show this young man The way. There was laughter from the other monks. The way of the washerwoman, said Rinpo. Miss Cosmopolite is a dressmaker, said Lutze calmly. Whose wisdom is in sayings like, it won't get better if you pick it, said Rinpo, winking at the rest of the monks. Few things get better if you pick at them, said Lutze, and now his calmness was a lake of tranquility. It may be a mean little way, but small and unworthy though it is my way. He turned to the abbot. That was how it used to be, your reverence. You recall, master and pupil go out into the world where the pupil may pick up practical instruction by precept and example, and then the pupil finds his own way, and at the end of his way, he finds himself, Badoom, said the abbot. First he finds a teacher, said Lutze. He is lucky that you will Badoom be that teacher. Reverend sir, said Lutze, it is in the nature of ways that none can be sure who the teacher may be. All I can do is show him a path, which will be in the direction of the city. Yes, said Lutze, and Ankh-Morpork is a long way from Uberwald. You won't send me to Uberwald because I'm an old man. So, in all respect, I beg you to humour an old man. I have no choice when you put it like that, said the abbot. Reverend sir, began Rinpo, who felt that he did. The spoon was banged on the tray again. Lutze is a man of high reputation, the abbot shouted. I trust him implicitly to do the correct action. I just wish I could trust him to do what I want. I have forbidden him to go to Uberwald. Now do you wish me to forbid him not to go to Uberwald? Bigot, I have spoken, and now all you gentlemen be good and leave. I have urgent business to attend to. Lutze bowed and grabbed Lopsang's arm. Come on, lad, he whispered. Let's bugger off quick before anyone works it out. On the way out, they passed a lesser acolyte carrying a small potty with a pattern of bunny rabbits around it. It's not easy reincarnating, said Lutze, running down the corridor. Now, we got to get out of here before someone gets any funny ideas, lad. Grab your bag and bedroll. But no one would countermand the abbot's orders, would they? Said Lopsang as they skidded around the corner. Ha! It'll be his nap in 10 minutes, and if they give him a new toy when he wakes up, he might end up being so busy banging square green pegs into round blue holes that he'll forget what he had just said Lutze. Politics, lad. Too many idiots will start saying they are sure the abbot would have meant this. Off you go now. I'll see you in the garden of 5 surprises in 1 minute. When Lopsang arrived, Lutze was carefully tying one of the bonsai mountains into a bamboo framework. He fastened the last knot and placed it in a bag over one shoulder. Won't it get damaged? Said Lopsang. It's a mountain. How can it get damaged? Lutze picked up his broom. And we'll just drop in here and have a chat with an old mate of mine before we leave, though. Maybe we'll pick up some stuff. What's going on, Sweeper? Said Lopsang, trailing after him. Well, it's like this, lad. Me and the abbot and the bloke we're going to see, we go back a long way. Things are a bit different now, admittedly. The abbot can't just say, Lutze, you're an old rogue. It was you that put the idea of Uberwald into everyone's heads in the first place, but I see you're onto something, so off you go and follow your nose. But I thought he was the supreme ruler. Exactly. And it's very hard to get things done when you are the supreme ruler. There's too many people in the way, mucking things up. This way, the new lads can have fun running around Uberwald going high, and we, my lad, will be heading for Ankh-Morpork. The abbot knows that. Almost knows that. How do you know the new clock is being built in Ankh-Morpork? Said Lopsang, trailing behind Lutze as he took a mossy, sunken path that led through rhododendron thickets to the monastery wall. I know. I'll tell you, the day someone pulls the plug out of the bottom of the universe, the chain will lead all the way to Ankh-Morpork, and some bugger saying, I just wanted to see what would happen. All roads lead to Ankh-Morpork. I thought all roads led away from Ankh-Morpork. Not the way we're going. Here we are. Lutze knocked at the door of a rough but large shed built right up against the wall. At the same moment there was an explosion within, and someone, Lopsang corrected himself, half of someone, tumbled very fast out of the unglazed window beside it and hit the path with bone-cracking force. Only when it stopped rolling did he realize there was a wooden dummy in a monk's robe. Ku's having fun, I see, said Lutze. He hadn't moved as the dummy had sailed past his ear. The door burst open, and a plump old monk looked out excitedly. "Did you see that? Did you see that?" he said. "Oh, that was with just one spoonful," he nodded at them. "Oh, hello, Lucy. I was expecting you. I've got some things ready." "Got what?" said Lopsang. Who's the boy?" said Ku, ushering them in. "The untutored child is called Lopsang," said Lutze, looking around the shed. There was a smoking circle on the stone floor, with drifts of blackened sand around it. "New toys, Ku." "Exploding mandala," said Ku happily, bustling forward. "Just sprinkle the special sand in a simple design anywhere you like, and the first enemy to walk on it, bang! Instant karma! Don't touch that!" Lutze reached across and snatched from Lopsang's inquisitive hand the begging bowl that he had just picked up from a table. "Remember Rule 1, he said, and hurled the bowl across the room. Hidden blades slid out as it spun, and the bowl buried itself in a beam. "That would take a man's head right off," said Lopsang. And then they heard the faint ticking. 3, 4, 5, said Ku. "Everybody talk, now!" Lutze pushed Lopsang to the floor a moment before the bowl exploded. Metal fragments scythed overhead. "I just added a little something extra since you last saw it," said Ku proudly, as they got to their feet once again. "A very versatile device, plus, of course, you can use it to eat rice out of. Oh, and have you seen this?" He picked up a prayer drum. Both Lutze and Lopsang instinctively took a step back. Ku twirled the drum a few times, and the weighted cords pattered against the skins. "The cord can be instantly removed for a handy garrote," he said, "and the drum itself can be removed, like so, to reveal this useful dagger. Plus, of course, you can use it to pray with," said Lopsang. "Well spotted," said Ku. "Quick, boy. A prayer is always useful in the last resort. In fact, we've been working on a very promising mantra incorporating sonic tones that have a particular effect on the human nervous system." "I don't think we need any of this stuff, Ku," said Lutze. Ku sighed. "At least you could let us turn your broom into a secret weapon, Lutze. I've shown you the plans." "It is a secret weapon," said Lutze. "It's a broom." "How about the new yaks we've been breeding? At the touch of reins, their horns will instantly—" "We want the spinners, Ku." The monk suddenly looked guilty. "Spinners? What spinners?" Lutze walked across the room and pressed a hand against a part of the wall, which slid aside. "These spinners, Ku. Don't mug me about. We haven't got the time." Lopsang saw what looked very much like two small procrastinators, each one within a metal framework mounted on a board. There was a harness attached to each board. "You haven't told the abbot about them yet, have you?" said Lutze, unhooking one of the things. "He'd put a stop to them if you did, and you know that." "I didn't think anyone knew," said Ku. "How did you?" Lutze grinned. "No one notices a sweeper," he said. "They are still very experimental," said Q, close to panic now. "I was going to tell the abbot, of course, but I was waiting until I had something to demonstrate, and it would be terrible if they fell into the wrong hands." "Then we'll see to it that they don't," said Lutze, examining the straps. "How are they powered now?" "Weights and ratchets were too unreliable," said Q. "I'm afraid I had to resort to, clockwork." Lutze stiffened and glared at the monk. "Clockwork?" Only as a motive force, Q protested. "There really was no other choice." Too late now. It'll have to do," said Lutze, unhooking the other board, passing it across to Lopsang. "There you go, lad. With a bit of sacking around it, it'll look just like a backpack." "What is it?" Q sighed. They're portable procrastinators. Try not to break them, please." "And what will we need them for?" "I hope you don't have to find out," said Lutze. "Thanks, Q." "Are you sure you wouldn't prefer some time bombs?" said Q hopefully. "Drop one on the floor and time will slow for—" "Thanks, but no." "The other monks were fully equipped," said Q. "But we're traveling light," said Lutze firmly. "We'll go out the back way, Q, okay?" The back way led to a very narrow path and a small gate in the wall. Dismembered wooden dummies and patches of scorched rock indicated that Q and his assistants often came down this way. And then there was another path, beside one of the many icy streamlets. "Q means well," said Lutze, walking fast, "but if you listen to him, you end up clanking when you walk and exploding when you sit down." Lopsang ran to keep up. "It'll take weeks to walk to Ankh-Morpork, Sweeper." We'll slice our way there, said Lutze, and he stopped and turned around. You think you can do that? I've done it hundreds of times, Lobsang began. Back in Oidong, yes, said Lutze, but there's all kinds of checks and safeguards in the valley. Oh, didn't you know that? Slicing in Oidong is easy, lad. It's different out here. The air tries to get in the way. Do it wrong, and the air is a rock. You have to shape the slice around you so that you move like a fish in the water. Know how to do that. We learned a bit of the theory, but Soto said you stopped time for yourself back in the city. The stands of the Coyote, it's called. Very hard to do, and I don't reckon they teach it in the Thieves' Guild, eh? I suppose I was lucky, Sweeper. Good. Keep it up. We'll have plenty of time for you to practice before we leave the snow. Get it right before you tread on grass, or kiss your feet goodbye. They called it slicing time. There's a way of playing certain musical instruments that is called circular breathing, devised to allow people to play the didgeridoo or bagpipes without actually imploding or being sucked down the tube. Slicing time was very much the same, except time was substituted for air, and it was a lot quieter. A trained monk could stretch a second further than an hour. But that wasn't enough. He'd been moving in a rigid world. He'd have to learn to see by echo light and hear by ghost sound and let time leach into his immediate universe. It wasn't hard once he found the confidence. The sliced world would almost seem normal, apart from the colors. It was like walking in sunsets, although the sun was fixed high in the sky and barely ever moved. The world ahead shaded toward violet, and the world behind, when Lobsang looked around, was the shade of old blood. And it was lonely. But the worst of it, Lobsang realized, was the silence. There was noise, sort of, but it was just a deep sizzle at the edge of hearing. His footsteps sounded strange and muffled, and the sound arrived in his ears out of sync with the tread of his feet. They reached the edge of the valley and stepped out of the perpetual springtime into the real world of the snows. Now the cold crept in slowly like a sadist's knife. Lutze strode ahead, seemingly oblivious to it all. Of course, that was one of the stories about him. Lutze, it was said, would walk for miles during weather when the clouds themselves would freeze and crash out of the sky. Cold did not affect him, they said. And yet, in the stories, Lutze had been bigger, a lot stronger, not a skinny little bald man who preferred not to fight at all. Sweeper! Lutze stopped and turned around. His outline blurred slightly and Lobsang unwrapped himself from time. Color came back into the world, and while the cold ceased to have the force of a drill, it still struck hard. Yes, lad? You're going to teach me, right? If there's anything left that you don't know, Wonder Boy, said Lutze dryly, you're slicing well, I can see that. I don't know how you can stand this cold. Ah, you don't know the secret. Is it the way of Miss Cosmopolita that gives you such power? Lutze hitched up his robe and did a little dance in the snow, revealing skinny legs encased in thick, yellowing tubes. Very good, she said. She still sends me these double-knit combinations, silk on the inside, then 3 layers of wool, reinforced gussets, and a couple of handy trapdoors. A very reasonable price at $6 a pair because I'm an old customer. For it is written, rather warm, or you'll catch your death. It's just a trick? Lutze looked surprised. What? Well, I mean, it's all tricks, isn't it? Everyone thinks you're a great hero, and you don't fight, and they think you possess all kinds of strange knowledge, and it's just tricking people, is it? Even the abbot? I thought you'd teach me things worth knowing. I've got her address, if that's what you want. If you mention my name... I see you don't mean that. Right. I don't want to be ungrateful, I just thought... You thought I should use mysterious powers derived from a lifetime of study just to keep my legs warm, eh? Well, debase the sacred teachings for the sake of my knees, you think? When you put it like that... Then something made Lobsang look down. He was standing in 6 inches of snow. Lutze was not. His sandals were standing in 2 puddles. The ice was melting away around his toes. His pink, warm toes. Toes, now that's not the matter, said the sweeper. Miss Cosmopolita is a wizard with long johns, but she can't turn a heel worth a damn. Lobsang looked up into a wink. Always remember rule 1, eh? Lutze patted the shaken boy on the arm. "But you're doing well," he said. "Let's have a quiet sit down and a brew up." He pointed to some rocks that at least offered some protection from the wind. Snow had piled up against them in big white mounds. "Lutze?" "Yes, lad. I've got a question. Can you give me a straight answer?" "I'll try, of course." "What the hell is going on?" Lutze brushed the snow off of a rock. "Oh," he said, "one of the difficult questions." Tick.